You ready to do this, Britta?
I am ready, Spence. Punch it, Chewie.
Welcome, super friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot tonight is Britta Stapleton.
Hello.
We're two nerds that just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode 126. We release every Thursday morning. You can find us on our website, fortofnerd.com. We have links to iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, and everywhere podcasts are available. Stop by and relax a while. If you like what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button and get us automatically each and every week in your ear holes. Britta, welcome back to the Fortress of Nerditude. How are you? What has been going on? Let the super friends know what's new in your world.
Yeah, thanks so much. I love always being here whenever I am able to be here. So let's see what's been going on. Well, today, the day we're recording, is actually Easter. So, so we had an interesting Easter.
Happy Easter.
Yeah, happy Easter.
Happy also belated Easter?
To everyone else that's listening on Thursday and beyond. Yeah.
Right.
Cool. So we were supposed to get together with your family, go to your mom's house for Easter.
Right.
But our little nephew, Sammy, who's 4, he'll be 5, I think, in July, same age as Jackson, he got strep throat this weekend. And that is no bueno. So he got sick, his little brother Jake came down with a fever, so Easter just didn't really happen.
Easter's kaput.
Yep. So we kind of tried to do our own thing. Your mom was so nice, and she just had all the food that she wanted to make anyway, and just didn't have time to do it some other time. So she made all of Easter dinner and brought it over to us today. So we still had ham and potatoes and, deviled eggs and everything like that, which was nice. I didn't have to do a whole lot of work. You did some other things. I know you're going to talk about that later. But yeah, no, we had a good Easter. The kids loved their baskets. Of course, they got tons and tons of candy in their Easter baskets.
Way too much candy.
Yeah, the Easter Bunny brought them too much candy this year. There was a different Easter Bunny that was in charge of some of it this year. And that Easter Bunny went a little overboard on the candy.
No, wait. Mm-hmm. One Easter Bunny bought a lot of candy.
Yeah.
The other Easter Bunny that was in charge of the logistics put all that candy in there. No. I blame the second Easter Bunny.
Yes, and FYI, our children listen to this, so, But the other Easter Bunny that was making the baskets used a third, if not less, of the candy that was purchased for Easter this year that the Easter Bunny decided to give. Just saying, kids still loved it, but they were on a sugar craze this morning. It was nuts, so we had to cut them off before church. And but then after church we had fun. We did it was raining and it was wet and muddy outside today, so we just did an inside Easter egg hunt. So I got to so our Easter Bunny brings all of the prepackaged eggs full of stuff and gives them to Spencer and I, and then we hide them for the Easter Bunny so that we can do the Easter egg hunt at our house whenever we want. So I hid the eggs around the house and, made it fairly easy for our children and made them hide in their room for about 5 or 10 minutes while I put the eggs around the house. And it was over in about 2 minutes by the time they came downstairs, ran around and collected all the eggs. But yeah, they had a lot of fun. Got a bunch of random little cheapo toys, but they were super excited about it.
Yeah. Yeah, so, they were pretty happy about it.
Yeah.
They were also really hopped up on sugar still, so they probably would have been happy about anything.
It's true. But we also put them to bed really early tonight.
Yeah, we did.
Little did they know.
We put them to bed an hour early. We just said, okay, it's bedtime. They didn't even question it.
It's so light outside. I'm like,
summer's
guys.
coming. Yeah, summer's coming.
But here we are. We have an agenda tonight, guys. We got to get to Game of Thrones. Like, we got to get to Game of Thrones. So, this is what's happening.
Yep. So it's you know, we got to record tonight. When we're recording earlier this week, because Britta is actually going out of town. She leaves on Jackson's birthday and abandons her son and goes on a work trip, and we'll be gone. That's exactly what you're doing. You're leaving on his birthday
present to open.
Yeah, I'm not going to let him open that out of spite. I'm going to say,
he'll be awake before I leave, so I will have him open it while I'm still here.
I don't think
Tough
so.
luck.
We want that kid to sleep. Anyway, she's leaving for like 4 days, leaving me. This is what she doesn't tell you guys. She's like, oh, everything's great. Everything's fine. No. She's abandoning her children. She's leaving me alone with them for 4 days while she goes on a work vacation.
It is not a work vacation. It is a work trip. I'm going to a conference. It is not a lot of fun, people. This is not a vacation.
It's a conference. I know how those things go. You're not at home dealing with home stuff, so it's a vacation. You have to sit in some meetings. You got to do the thing. It's a dog and pony show for 4 days. It's a vacation.
Sure.
So, I'm going to be home by myself with the kids, doing the dad life, you know, doing the birthday, taking Jackson out to breakfast on his birthday, and then taking, like, the whole family, minus Britta, out to dinner for his birthday dinner that night, and schlepping kids around to swimming lessons, and doing all that kind of stuff. And, yeah, you're going to be doing what again? Sitting in the conference room? Yeah. Sounds like a vacation to me.
I'm going to be increasing my skills for work to make more money for our family so we can pay off debt and go on vacations. Come on.
Right. Anyway, so let's stick with the Easter theme though.
Yeah.
Going back to that. I made ribs today.
Yes, you did.
And I decided that I was going to take, I've been looking at some pit masters that have like gone to competitions, won competitions, and they talk about like kind of how they make their competition ribs. And the difference between like a competition rib and a backyard rib really comes down a lot to presentation. So if you're making ribs for your family and friends just at home, you know, kind of a backyard, if you're using a smoker, like a pellet smoker, like a Traeger, or like a upright drum smoker, like my pit barrel cooker, you're gonna put on your binder, you're gonna put on your rub, you're gonna, you know, smoke it for, you know, a number of hours. You're gonna, you know, probably wrap it up in tin foil, and then you're going to let it continue to cook, wrapped in tin foil for a couple hours, and then you'll probably pull it out, rest the meat, and, you know, slice it up and serve it. It tastes delicious. It'll have a good smoke ring on it, you know, kind of a good bark, a real good flavor. But it doesn't exactly look great all the time. Competition ribs, they take it a step further. So what they do is it's kind of the same thing. You're going to smoke your meat and hang it for so long. You can wrap it up in tinfoil, but here's some of the secrets. When you go to wrap it in tinfoil, you do a kind of a common theme, and what I did today was a butter, brown sugar, and honey bath. So basically I took butter, brown sugar, and honey, and I put them all together. I blended them up so it was, and then I added apple juice with it because I was using some apple wood and some other stuff. So I was trying to get a little bit of sweetness in it as well. And you basically make not a paste because that would be way too thick, but you make kind of like a runny, kind of think like runny pancake batter consistency, and you drizzle that over the ribs, and with some extra of the kind of sauce juice in there when you wrap it up, and so that like steams with it, and that butter and brown sugar and the honey and everything, and the apple juice steams through the meat, gives it more flavor, really tenderizes it, and you let that go. We did that for about 2 hours, and then after that, I pulled it out, and then I put a barbecue sauce concoction that I had made up myself and put that over the ribs and kind of painted the ribs. You don't put on super heavy and thick, but enough. Then you put it back in over the heat again, and you let that kind of get all tacky and sticky and gooey. And competition ribs are meant to look amazing as well as, you know, taste amazing and pack a punch. And I gotta say, I think these probably, Britta, were the best ribs I've ever made.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Like, I could have eaten, like, a full rack of those if I could have actually eaten that much meat, because they were delicious.
Yeah, I mean, I've made really good ribs in the past.
Yeah.
But for some reason, and I don't know if it was just the combination of the rubs that I was using, and then the butter, kind of the butter bath that I did with it, and then the barbecue sauce to kind of finish it off. But whatever, just the combination of all of the above, just wow. It was like next level ribs. My only complaint was I thought they looked, the sauce on them looked a little dark. They didn't really have that really kind of candy apple red look that I would have liked. But still, it was more kind of like a deeper molasses look to it.
Mm-hmm.
But they just, wow. I mean, just fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah, they're good. And we have lots and lots of leftovers.
Yeah.
One of these days, we're going to have like a Fortress of Nerditude barbecue.
No, we're not.
All the super friends over.
No, we're not.
Because you talk about this stuff on here all the time. They're probably like dying, like, oh my gosh, I need to try this food.
I'm just trying to encourage them to get into it themselves.
Sure.
That's all. I did get to hang out with Stu on Saturday evening. I went over to his house and played some board games.
Nice.
Played a game called Betrayal Legacy. And this was a game Stu had talked about a while ago. And it's a legacy game is a weird kind of game because you play it, but then like you're going to continue playing this game because rules adapt and change and items can stick with your character, like permeate through death. And so part of that though is like sometimes it'll say like, okay, you're done with this. You'll never use this card again. Rip it up. And so like you rip up like a rule card or rip up like some sort of card and then you throw it away. And it's just like, oh, this feels awkward and wrong. And apparently they're like, when you get to the end of the game, people are like, well, you can't play the game anymore. So it's not like a one and done, like you're going to play the game once, but like you're going to go through like a whole kind of campaign of these games. And so this game has like 13 games, and I think we played 2 of them on Saturday night. And it was really fun, but like ripping up cards felt weird, knowing that like once it's done, like it's done, you just throw it away. There's no reason to kind of keep it because you can't do anything with it.
I don't understand that.
It's just a different kind of a game, but it was kind of a fun game, really interesting. I'm looking forward to getting back and playing some more with Stu and a couple of other people that were there with us.
Nice.
So yeah, it was good. It was good seeing Stu. It was good kind of getting a chance to hang out with him a little bit. It's been a little while since we've hung out. I'm going to give him a call this week and see if I can arrange some time to go see that old Avengers Endgame with him, down the road here in the next week or two. But yeah, so that was good. Britta, we have a lot of rain, like you mentioned. It's been wet, Easter, and we found out that we've got a spot in our basement where somehow we're getting water in and around a window, and you can tell that it's seeping in through like the wood, and that it's going down through the wall and into the carpet because it's squishy and
it's all squishy.
So sometime this week, I'm gonna have to call and get the homeowner's insurance people to send out an adjuster and to take a look at it and see what it is. And I'm not looking forward to that. It kind of reminds me of when we had the hot water heater blow on us. And I feel like that took like 3 months for them to like get the hot water heater, replaced, which that seemed to go like rather fast. But then it was like, rip out the carpet and, rip out the, part of the wall and the padding. And then,
I would have to come over from work multiple times throughout, like you said, over a number of months and be here for a few hours while they're ripping stuff out, letting stuff dry. And then they're like, oh, we'll come back in a couple days and do this. And oh, we'll come back in a week to do this. And I'm like, why can't we just get this whole thing done in 1 week? I don't understand that.
Or it was, we got to get this contractor to come in and do this, and this contractor does this thing, and I get it. Like the homeowner's insurance is taking care of it, and it's not going to cost us out of pocket. But it's one of those things where, like, if you're just paying it out of pocket, you just get a contractor to come in and do everything, and like they'd knock the whole thing out in just like a couple days total.
Yeah.
Instead of like it dragging on forever. So I'm not really looking forward to that, but like we have to get this thing taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have a suspicion because I remember seeing that wall in that area. I think that was happening to the previous tenant as well. I mean, they used to have, because they had a problem with drainage, they used to have a sump pump in that window well, and it's still technically there. I mean, we haven't had to turn it on because I figured out, oh yeah, the reason why everything was overflowing is because there was a ball stuck in the gutter.
Mm-hmm.
And the second I got it out of there, instead they were like sump pump and anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Let's see. Been playing some more Kingdom Hearts 2 with Britta and the kids.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, like, I'm enjoying it, but man, there's a lot of talking and a lot of dialogue. Seems like I've actually physically played a lot less this game than the first game. Like the first game felt like you go through areas and there'd be fighting and you'd fight and fight and fight, and then you'd be like, okay, and now
there's a quick cutscene.
Yeah, here's a cutscene or two, and then you're back to like you gotta grind your way to kind of the next cutscene. This is like cutscene, one quick little fight, cutscene,
well,
next little fight.
And I feel like in this game too, like it's just taken so much longer to actually get to the game and the story, because there's that whole prelude with Roxas and Twilight Town and stuff, and I'm just like, come on, get to the freaking game. It took so long just to get to Sora and get to some story, and then there was tons of talking, like you said, talking about the story before we actually get to fighting any Heartless and going to different worlds.
Yeah. So I'm still enjoying it, but I mean, I just wish that I could just like, I feel like I just need to get my hands like dirty. Like I got to be swinging that Keyblade more, and I'm just not. So
well, we need a longer stretch of time to sit and play too. We really haven't had much time since we started. It's just been in little spurts here or there.
Yeah.
So
that and the other thing is Charlie wants to defeat Heartless, and so like every 3 seconds, Daddy, if there's a Heartless, I wanna fight him. Daddy, if there's a Heartless, I wanna fight him. It's like yeah, I know. I'm just trying to find a spot where I can get a bunch of enemies to respawn over and over and over again, and then I'll just let you fight for like 15-20 minutes straight, and it'll get out of his system. It really will.
Yeah.
But this game hasn't given us that opportunity yet.
Right.
And so it's just driving Daddy nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Charlie, if you're listening to this. Buddy, little patience. That's all I'm saying.
Just open up Kingdom Hearts 1 again and let him go fight a bunch of stuff for a while. You're going to have to do that while I'm gone, because you're not going to be playing Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yeah, here's my save point. When I've got a maxed up character, just go into the Gizmo shop in Traverse Town and, go nuts. The last thing, I'm looking at some new podcast equipment. Jason Bolt and I were talking about it this weekend, and I was like, yeah, I need to look at a couple things, and he said he had a mixer that had some more inputs than mine, he thought, and so he sent me a picture, and I said, oh, no, that's actually the one I've got. And so we were kind of looking at that, but then I'm looking at maybe to get some podcast equipment that I could use on the road with me, so if I start going and doing some interviews or setting up kind of an in-home studio, to have a couple people on at the same time, to make that kind of happen a little easier. So that's kind of interesting and exciting. Just kind of, some of the nuts and bolts that goes on behind the show. Yeah. So anyway, Britta, what do you say though? We move on and we murder some Bothans. Should we do that?
I really need to murder some Bothans today. Let's do it.
I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, Britta, we're into Rebel Intelligence. What do you have for me this week?
All right, so first and foremost, you may have heard about a little movie called Avengers Endgame. I don't know if you've heard about that at all.
Yeah, I don't think so, no.
Yeah, well, it's coming out this week.
Ah, okay.
So, I don't know, maybe you'll catch it once or 5 times. I don't know. But, so recently, actually, I think everyone was kind of assuming that Avengers Endgame was going to be the end of the MCU's third phase. You know, they've got the phase 1 and phase 2 with all the movies and everything. And but recently, actually, Kevin Feige was talking to fans in Shanghai, and he said that Spider-Man Far From Home is actually what they're considering the end of the third phase.
Really?
Yeah. So, which is interesting. I mean, they, you know, I mean, I think that's kind of happened before with like Stage 2. Ant-Man was actually the end of Stage 2 and not Age of Ultron. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
I mean, it's, I guess maybe that movie will be kind of the denouement of like the third phase, you know, kind of, you know, if Avengers Endgame is going to be the big climactic, you know, final battle and whatever, which is, I'm just kind of assuming, we're going to have to kind of see some of the aftermath of that and like how things are kind of shaking out after that.
Yeah.
And that's probably a good idea to have a movie with already established characters that you could kind of shake some of that out. Because otherwise, if you started a fourth phase and like now you're going to have to introduce, like if let's say you're introducing new characters and some new franchises and whatnot, but then you're having to like kind of having to tie them back into what happened at the end of Endgame, feels like that might narratively kind of box you in a little bit. And so doing this with, you know, Spider-Man Far From Home could be really good because you might be able to give a chance to kind of let the dust settle, so to speak, you know, that sort of idea.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of said like it's kind of like an epilogue to Endgame, which I was like, okay, that makes sense to me. Kind of seeing how the world is and how everyone's kind of settled in after Endgame, whatever happens in that. Obviously, we know people come back because hello, Spider-Man. But so I mean, frankly, the phases don't affect me in any way. I just watch all the movies without really thinking about what section they're supposed to be in, you know? So.
Interesting.
Anyway.
So, Britta, I know you don't play a ton of video games, so the Halo franchise probably isn't something you're super kind of up on.
Halo is the only game that I've ever actually really played.
Was it just the multiplayer, or did you actually play the campaign?
I've played a little of both. More of the multiplayer, but mostly 1 and 2 when I was in college. But yeah, I have a vague idea.
Okay, so Halo is like, it's become this big franchise, right? It's spawned, you know, besides just the numerous video games and some offshoot video games,
right.
We've gotten some animated things that have happened. Well, now we're gonna get a Halo TV series on Showtime, and Showtime has broken the news saying that they have finally cast their actor that's going to be playing Master Chief.
Oh.
And that actor is Pablo Schreiber. He's most recently from American Gods, where he plays a leprechaun. Of course, he's an extremely tall leprechaun. He's 6'5".
Yeah.
The leprechaun's not meant to be like in the diminutive, you know, status category. But anyway, the interesting thing though is that this actor's like, he's a really good actor. But Master Chief, you don't ever see his face. He always has his helmet on. So it's kind of like, well, I mean, could you just put like anyone in the suit and just, you know, had some voiceover work? But apparently, you know, they want to use Pablo. So he's been cast. They're also saying that they've cast a new character of Quan Ah, portrayed by Yaren Ha. She's supposed to be a teenage girl from the Outer Colonies. They're going to cross paths somehow. The new character, not in any of the video games. Okay. We don't know much other than that. We do know it's going to start filming in Budapest, Hungary in the fall. So my guess is maybe we'll see this maybe sometime late 2020. All I want to know is if they're going to do Cortana, the AI that's in Master Chief's suit. Mm-hmm. I hope they go and get the actress that actually voiced Cortana in the games and does the voice of Cortana for Microsoft.
Right.
And, uses her, because that would be a great tie-in to the video game franchise that I think fans would really appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so iconic, basically. You know, you've been hearing that voice for so long that it seems weird if they had somebody else doing that.
Right. And if it's just voiceover work, you would think that would be something that, could work around schedules and whatnot, but
right.
I guess we'll see.
Huh, interesting.
What else you got, Britta?
So, you know how sometimes you were watching Netflix, right? You binge a whole series or watch a bunch of movies or whatever, and you just get to a point of just, what do I watch next? I have no idea what to watch next. Right?
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, that happens to me all the time. Well, now Netflix has an answer for this, rather than just like scrolling endlessly, their browse endlessly thing. So Android Police reported Thursday that the streaming platform's Android app is testing a feature to queue up a random episode of a given series with an in-app shuffle icon. So basically, when you don't know what to watch, you can do this random episode thing, and it'll just show you some random episode of one of many different series, and that's what'll come up, which I think is kind of interesting. I think there's good and bad to this. I mean, they have kind of mentioned some of the series that they would be showing that are kind of listed under this, is like Arrested Development, The Office, or Our Planet. So these series you could watch just like a random episode, right? And not really feel like the whole series has been like ruined for you, or that you're lost in the story. But some other shows I would think would be really hard to do that. Either like you've never seen the series and it's just, okay, here's just a random episode of like what?
Lost.
Yeah.
Imagine like an episode from like the 3rd season of Lost.
Yeah.
You would have no clue what's going on.
Exactly. You'd literally just be lost. So, I don't know how well this is going to work, but they said it's kind of like mimicking actually like watching live TV, when you just like flip channels and there's just like at a given time there's like a random episode of like Full House on, or Seinfeld, or, and you might just stop and watch part of that. So I think for some series it could definitely work, and I'd be okay with that. Just be like, put on some random thing and I'll watch a random episode of Arrested Development, and I've seen the series so it doesn't bother me, and it's a one-off. But I don't know, how do you feel about that?
So I wonder how that algorithm's going to work. Like, are they going to be heavily pushing their Netflix original content on that, or is it going to be just like a really random number generator and it just picks anything? The other thing is that stuff that's like really, really serialized, like you really have to watch the previous stuff to figure out what's going on in the current stuff. Mm-hmm. That would be really, really hard to do, I think, with something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Good and bad. I mean, the good is you could be introduced to some things that maybe you wouldn't have given a try to.
Yeah.
You may watch it and you may enjoy it. But the bad, could be, you just watch a bunch of random episodes for something that you're never going to, you're never going to watch. Mm-hmm. So you just feel like you're wasting your time, maybe more than just scrolling. I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, I guess we'll see how it goes. And it's only starting in like Android platforms too. So, that's where they're going to be testing it. So I guess we'll see how that goes, if it becomes popular enough that they roll out to other platforms.
Yeah, interesting.
Give it a try.
All right, Britta, you know that I don't have a lot of love for David Ayer's Suicide Squad movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan. And I've told you, and I'm sure you've heard, that they're going to be rebooting it with James Gunn, who directed Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2.
Right.
And he's bringing on Idris Elba, which is a big kind of thing. Well, now there's talks, and Variety is reporting that John Cena is in talks to sign on for the movie. John Cena's, very popular wrestler with the WWE.
Yeah.
He's done some movies. He's done some acting. He is a very kind of big personality, like character-wise. originally, I think that the role he's going up for right now, that they're in talks to get him to sign on, was the one they wanted Dave Bautista to do.
Okay.
But Dave Bautista can't do it due to scheduling conflicts. I'm guessing probably Guardians of the Galaxy 3, maybe.
Right.
Or maybe not Guardians of the Galaxy 3, because that wouldn't make sense, because James Gunn's coming back, and I don't see how he could be shooting both movies at the same time.
Yeah.
So something else then.
Probably some other project.
I'm going to assume. Yeah. But anyway, they're talking John Cena is going to be joining the crew. And, of course, this is going to be a reboot, basically, of the Suicide Squad film. It's not really a sequel. But the thing that makes this kind of weird that it's a reboot is that they're bringing back Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, and they're also bringing back Jai Courtney as Captain Boomerang. So they're bringing back some of the actors and actresses from the first film for the reboot.
That's weird.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, there's so many questions around this film for me, whether or not I think this is going to be good or not. But I mean, it's James Gunn, and I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt on this one and say that I'm going to go see it just on the fact that James Gunn is doing it alone. And I don't know. What do you think? John Cena, I mean, do you know who John Cena is? Are you a big John Cena fan?
I know who John Cena is. I've seen him in lots of, he's had tons of cameos on TV shows and been in some movies and things like that. So I do know who he is. I find him really funny. I don't think he's necessarily the best actor. So I guess we'll have to see how it goes in this role. But I do find that just really strange that they're calling it a reboot, but they're bringing back other actors, because that feels more like a continuation. So, I don't know. I guess I'll wait and see the previews if I have any desire to go see this one. I had no desire for the last one, So,
right.
I don't know.
Well, you got a little over 2 years before this comes out. August 6th, 2021 is the currently scheduled release date. So,
okay.
a little bit of time.
I'll think about it.
Okay. What else do you have, Britta?
That's it for me. I don't have anything else today.
Okay. I got one other thing.
Okay.
The final trailer for Dark Phoenix. Dark Phoenix is coming out, I think, like June 7th. Okay. They put out a final trailer for it. It's got some stuff we haven't seen before, but basically it's kind of showing that, kind of what we talked about. Like, we figured, okay, somehow they get into outer space and she gets hit by some sort of solar radiation or whatever. And it does kind of look like basically the X-Men are assisting NASA because there's some sort of problem and the X-Men are kind of called in to kind of come and help. And so that setup makes a little more sense now. I don't know if you've seen this trailer or not. Let me just say though that the last couple X-Men movies that have put out have just, in my opinion, kind of been just kind of so-so, like not the best, but not horrible. But this one looks really, really good. And the problem is this looks really, really, really good. And now I keep thinking, what is going to happen with the X-Men now that Marvel owns this franchise? Are we going to keep some of the cast and the casting? Or is, this like 5 years down the road, Kevin Feige's going to find a way to get them into the MCU and all these characters are going to be recast again. Because, I mean, we kind of had the old cast of the X-Men movies and then we got the kind of the first class, the recasting and going back in time. And now kind of who knows, but Dark Phoenix looks really good. Have you seen this trailer?
I've seen bits and pieces of the trailer, and here's my problem. Maybe it's because I haven't seen like the whole trailer and stuff. But for me, like as soon as I saw it, it felt so much like X-Men Last Stand.
Right.
That where they focused on Jean Grey so much and she was kind of like destroying the whole world or whatever, kind of stuff. Like, and it felt a lot like that to me. And I'm like, okay, so they just kind of doing the same thing. I don't really know. But also I kind of feel the same as you, where it's like the first one, X-Men First Class, was really good, and then the subsequent ones have gotten less. I don't know. I just haven't loved them as much, and I love the X-Men, so it makes me sad. And so I'm just like, I'm not really excited for this one, but maybe that's a good way to go into it because I'm not super excited, and so maybe then I'll end up really liking it. I don't know. So.
I mean, it does feel, I mean, I don't think your comparison to The Last Stand is that off, because they did try to bring in kind of the Dark Phoenix storyline into that movie.
Yeah.
But this is definitely like, this whole movie is that storyline.
Right.
And so they're really giving that kind of, and that was a big, comic storyline. So they're really trying to give it its own due and give it its own movie.
Sure.
Whereas like X-Men 3, The Last Stand was also about like mutant registration and
they
trying to
sort of like shoved it in with it.
Yeah, there was a lot of other stuff kind of going on.
Yeah.
So, which we kind of already got that mutant registration suppression stuff with X-Men Days of Future Past.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
Anyway, I like it. I'm gonna go see it. It definitely looks good to me. I just like literally this week with Avengers Endgame coming up here right at the end of April, and then we're gonna be getting in June Dark Phoenix. I think July is Spider-Man Far From Home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we got a lot of comic book goodness coming up in the old theaters. So that was the last thing that I had for this week in Rebel Intelligence. So last week, Britta, we had a conversation. Me and Mark Boucher, we were talking about the Star Wars Celebration. We talked about a lot of stuff. We talked about some video games in the Star Wars world. Well, we talked about some TV shows, stuff that's going to be coming to Disney Plus with The Mandalorian. But then we talked about that new trailer for Star Wars Episode 9 and the title Rise of Skywalker. And our question of the week was, what do you think of the name of the title, Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Kind of where you're at. So let me ask you, Britta, hearing that title, how does that hit you? Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker.
Well, it makes me just think about Luke. So I don't know. I guess it kind of confuses me a little bit. Because he seemed like he was trying to like end the whole stuff in the last one, but now it's like Rey and like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. That's a terrible answer. I'm sorry. I don't know.
That's fair. I mean, you've yet to form a strong opinion one way or the other.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of how I've been with this new run of Star Wars movies. I don't think too much about it. I don't want to think too much about it. I don't want to read too much into it. I just want to go and get the story and kind of enjoy it. So I'm not going to think about it too much.
Okay.
It's fine. If they want to call it that, that's fine. I'll figure it out when I get to the movie.
So let's go to some answers from some super friends.
All right.
We'll start over on the email. This is Peter Christensen. He says, Dear Nerds, it's sad to hear that Hellboy has been a financial flop, although I did my part by not seeing it. He says, Hellboy was never my thing, but the movies seemed imaginative and visually striking. I really enjoyed the recent Alita Battle Angel, but the movie's box office performance also made sequels doubtful. Good thing we'll have thousands of Star Wars and superhero movies to drown our sorrows in. He says, I'd like to add to last week's discussion of best comic villains. The Marvel Netflix shows had so many amazing villains and the patience to develop their menace and complexity. Billy Russo and Agent Orange in The Punisher, the Kingpin in Daredevil, Mariah Stokes and Luke Cage, and best of all, Kilgrave and Jessica Jones. What they have in common with the Joker is that they have had time to develop. They got 20 to 50% of each episode in a 10-hour series, which is an order of magnitude more than even Thanos got in Infinity War. The Joker has had many portrayals across decades, and so maybe being a great villain is all about getting the reps in. I haven't watched the Rise of Skywalker trailer. I'm burned out on 9-month marketing campaigns. I would have been more excited about the title before the wacky hijinks of The Last Jedi, but Star Wars is back in earn my trust territory. But there's no doubt in the world that I'm seeing this movie. Cheers, Peter Christensen.
Nice.
I don't think Peter's got a bad point, though, about the whole idea of like these 9-month marketing campaigns, because, I mean, it does seem to drag on and wear on for quite a while. Now, I really don't think, I mean, we got that is a tiny, tiny teaser. I don't really think we're going to get anything else for a while. I won't be surprised if the next kind of bigger trailer we get is maybe San Diego Comic-Con, a little bit later on in the summer. But I think that's about all we're gonna get.
Yeah.
And then we'll start getting TV spots probably in September. But yeah, I'm okay moving away from like 9 months out. Start 3, especially maybe, I guess here's to go to Peter's point a little bit more. If it's a movie that people aren't familiar with and you're trying to start a franchise, maybe I can understand a bigger marketing campaign a little further out to really kind of help try to build that word of mouth. But it's a Star Wars film. Yeah. You literally could put out a trailer 3 weeks before the movie's going to hit, and it's still going to make a grundle of money.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't need to push it down your throat that far in advance.
Right. Okay, let's go over to Facebook. We're facebook.com/FloridaNerd. We have a super friend. His name is Eric Gifford. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, Britta.
I don't know.
He says, if the formula ain't broke, then don't fix it. It was obviously very similar to the Force Awakens trailer, and I loved it. Literally gave me cheers. Maybe he means chills. Using the Han and Leia theme in the context in an epic adaptation was genius. I'm very much looking forward to this. Thank you, Eric. We appreciate your answer.
Yep. Not surprised by that one.
No. Caleb Albers says, I'm not the biggest fan of Star Wars, but this trailer I felt the pacing was off near the beginning, but slowly built up intensity, which I feel worked for what they were going for. But the name? It's not great. I think they need to swap it with The Last Jedi, so it goes Force Awakens, Rise of Skywalker, then The Last Jedi. I think that probably would have been a better naming convention, Caleb. I agree with you. Unfortunately, I don't think you can go back and kind of retcon that.
I know.
Although if there's going to be someone to do some retconning, it sounds like it is going to be J.J. Abrams. So we shall see. Okay, moving over to Twitter. We've got some answers. We're on Twitter at Ford of Nerd. Josh Stapleton at MTTG Street Team says, I like it. I do think Rey is a Skywalker. She is the main star. So the title has to refer to her, right? Right? Am I right? Obviously, I think he's just trolling.
Right.
Also because he's got a gif of Joey from Friends saying like, I need an answer now. Give it to me. Something like that.
Oh, Josh.
Tim Paulin at TPaulin20 says, Star Wars, we will watch no matter the title. That is probably the most accurate representation of the title of any Star Wars movie.
I love it.
Or you could also probably say like, Star Wars, give us your money now.
Yep.
That, I mean, right, exactly.
Perfect.
Tim, very, very smart, very, very true. I like it. Ribbo equals Farmy McFarmface at Skinny Matt K says, I'm fine with it, but I doubt Rey is a Skywalker. That just seems too easy of a plot line to actually happen. Yeah, I don't think she's a Skywalker. Just a quick sidebar. I don't think she is. I've also heard a bunch of people say that The Last Jedi was Luke. She's not going to be a full Jedi, maybe not even use the term Jedi, that she may take the term Skywalker and start calling herself a Skywalker and apply that to other Force-sensitive people. And then, so that could be Rise of Skywalker. I've heard that kind of theory thrown out there. I don't know how I feel about that, but it could be. Who knows?
Yeah. Frankly, I don't want them to come out and say that she is a Skywalker. I think that would just be... It's too easy.
Also, it doesn't
make sense.
Doesn't make sense.
I don't like it.
Because if she... Okay, so... Real quick.
All right.
I guess this.
I know.
If she is a Skywalker, where does she come from? Okay, because if she is, let's say, Luke's daughter, we have no context and no backstory that's canon currently that ever suggests that Luke had a child,
right.
had a relationship with someone in any way, shape, or form that could produce a child. Okay, now they could fix that. They could show something. But 2, to go along with that, would we really be able then to believe that Luke had a child and abandoned that child on a desert planet and left the child behind the way he kind of was left behind and his sister was abandoned, left behind? Now we understand the reasons why they had to hide that pregnancy.
Right.
But we get the impression from what we saw in The Force Awakens that Rey knew her parents, even though she was really, really young. She, had a concept of who her parents were and recognized them, and they were leaving. So that just, that feels way, way off.
Yeah.
So, okay, so there's that. The other Skywalker we could be talking about is Leia, who had a child with Han Solo. So where would that other child have come from then that Han Solo wouldn't have been aware of and that Leia would have abandoned? That just, none of that makes sense.
And even if she was from the both of them, why would they never even, because they talk about Ben all the time, so why would they not mention this other child that they had, like make any sort of reference? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
So I'm not buying any of that. So anyway, small little side tangent. Let's go back to the answers from the Super Friends. The Lazy Stoner at _lazy_stoner says, not a fan of the title. The trailer wasn't bad, but the title, ugh. Yeah. FSE Podcast, Nerd News Pop Culture at FSE Podcast says, the trailer was good. It gave you just enough. Then they hit you with Sidious at the very end. I don't understand why they need to bring him back. What could he possibly add to the story? I mean, that's true. I mean, I got a theory. We see the end of the, what looks like the Death Star on that planet. We could be talking Force Ghosts, some sort of Force Echo, something. But, yeah. Rhinos at Metroid Hunter says, I think the Force Kid shown at the end of Last Jedi was Mara Jade and Luke Skywalker's son. Okay. Once again, I like the fact that you're bringing in Mara Jade. I love Mara Jade. I love Mara Jade from the old books that are no longer canon. But we don't have Mara Jade in this movie universe at all. Nothing's there. So I like it at Metroid Hunter, but I don't know that we're going to get to that point yet. So anyway, Super Friends, thank you so much for your answers this week. I know it was kind of a quick turnaround because I forgot that we were recording an extra day early, and so we didn't get that out to you, but I appreciate your answers and answering the call nonetheless. Britta, the Super Friends are out there. They're helping us out week in, week out. How can they help us this week?
They can go find us on iTunes, give us a rating, 5 stars if you think we're worth it. Tell your friends, tell your family. Email a podcast to your mom and say, Mom, listen to this. Go subscribe. It's great. You're going to love it. Send a mass email out to everyone in your contacts. Link the Fortress of Nerditude. I mean, find some way, guys. Get it out there. Help us out.
I like that your way of sharing the podcast is like spam everyone you know and link the podcast so that we then get identified as spam.
Whatever. Someone will like it. They'll start listening. We'll get one new listener from that.
So in case you're ever wondering, Britta is going to be starting up a new business where she tries to, sucker people into giving money for a Nigerian prince. And she's just going to continue to email that out to everyone.
Be watching for it, guys. It's really important. I just need help.
You just need that help. Yeah. And then you'll release the funds. Yeah. Totally.
Just wire it to a bank in the Caribbean. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Right. All right, Britta. So
I know.
You and I got to do something this last weekend. We took some time off from work and we went to FanX, which is a comic book convention here in Salt Lake. They do it twice a year in the spring and in the fall.
Yep.
And we thought that we would talk about some of the cosplay that we saw, the panels we went to, some of the photo ops, the vendors, the artists, and just kind of give kind of a recap and a review of kind of what we saw. Salt Lake has become a really big kind of convention in this kind of market. I mean, obviously we know San Diego Comic-Con is the big granddaddy, but I'd probably say that Salt Lake FanX, formerly known as Salt Lake Comic-Con, use is probably I'd say the second largest in the country now. I mean, it is massive. It is huge, and it just continues to get bigger and bigger. So FanX, though, in the spring is a little smaller than the fall. The fall is a 3-day event. The spring is a 2-day event. So we got to go to this. So Britta, where do you want to start? What do you want to talk about first? Panels, photo ops, vendors, artists, cosplay. What do you think we should talk about?
Let's just start talking about everything we saw. Let's talk about the vendor floor, walking around and stuff.
So if you've never been to a convention before, there's usually a few things that are going on. So you've got a vendor floor, which is kind of a big open space, and companies, little Etsy shops, all sorts of, vendors will pay the convention to basically have a dedicated space for them for the 2 or 3 days the convention's going on, so they can come in and try to sell whatever they're trying to sell.
Yeah.
So in this big space, it's just kind of like where a lot of people will walk around. They'll go look at stuff. Typically, though, you don't have to go through the vendor floor if you're trying to go to panels. Those are usually like, kind of in a different hallway with like separate wings and rooms. You can kind of go down. But, the vendor floor is a big floor. So we got to walk around, and I'd say we probably did the majority of our walking around on the vendor floor on day 1.
Yeah, I agree.
What kind of stuff is common? What kind of stuff can you expect to see there, Britta?
Well, they usually have a lot of different kind of vendors. Like we saw a lot of vendors that were selling like Funko Pops, like huge giant walls of Funko Pops.
Right.
A few of those. There's always, a number of vendors selling custom-made weapons, or, weapons from different movies and video games and things like that. Like we were looking, specifically we were trying to look for a Keyblade for our kids. And you can usually find some pretty decent, those like soft foamy type ones. There was a lot of metal ones there this year. There weren't nearly as many of those types of things at this one as there was in the fall. We saw a lot of just like random things like pins and buttons and t-shirts and
iPhone cases and pop sockets. And
Yeah. I was surprised because usually, at least in the fall one, there's actually a lot of actual comic book vendors.
Yeah.
That have a lot of comic books. I think I saw maybe
I saw one.
Yeah, maybe one this time. It was a much smaller floor this time. There was a lot more space to walk through, which was really nice, but there was also a lot less vendors. I didn't see there was like a lot of clothing vendors in the fall. There was only a couple this time. You can find a lot of steampunk stuff. You can find a lot of, anime kind of stuff. You can find action figures and, figurines and like literally anything you guys can think of that you would want that relates to a comic book convention, pop culture, movies, anything. They've got it. Jewelry. Headwear.
Minifigs. I thought those were cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There was a really cool minifig booth.
Yeah. So they had all the minifigs, like which you would expect, like, Star Wars stuff. But then they had like Stranger Things and Ghostbusters and Doctor Who and, oh gosh, all sorts like Mary Poppins and just like all sorts of things there. And so, you can go and buy.
Did you say Stranger Things?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I totally missed you saying that.
No.
They were cool.
Yeah, so I like that kind of stuff. I always look at it, though, and go, what am I going to do with those?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to buy them, and I'm going to put them on a shelf or something.
Yeah. If we had a place to display all that kind of stuff, maybe we'd get more of it, but we just don't. We don't collect.
Yeah, well, I collect some stuff. But so yeah, I think you're right. It seemed like there was less clothes vendors this time around than there was last fall. I also thought there was a lot less like weapons vendors. Like there's always like knife and sword vendors. The last one in the fall felt like there was like 7 of those kind of places. This time it felt like there was 2.
Yeah.
What is interesting to me though, and I've seen this kind of around, is that so they'll also have like food vendors that'll kind of come in, and there wasn't as many options for food this time around. But there was these 2 soda companies. One was it was just kind of a normal kind of like little trailer set up, and it had all the normal like, you know, Coke, Diet Coke type of, you know, soft drinks.
Yeah.
But then there was this other one that was selling these customized collectible like tankards.
Mm-hmm.
And they were pretty pricey. Like I think the cheapest one was like $20. Then they had the one that was a little bit bigger. It was like $25. Then the one that was like the customized collectible one was like $35.
Yeah.
But you get free refills of their soft drinks. But their soft drinks are all homemade. So it's like homemade root beer, homemade sarsaparilla, homemade what they call like birch beer, or homemade like black cherry.
Right.
And that thing, I think it was called like Wild Bill's. That thing had a line all the time when we go past it. Always a huge line. People said like it went pretty fast because they just go up there, you refill, and then you walk off again. But man, oh man, like I saw people just day in and day out just hitting that thing up. Boom, boom, boom.
And I think that's a super cool thing, especially because you can buy those, you know, cool mugs or whatever they are, and they're metal. So they're metal, and they're supposed to like keep your drink kind of cool and stuff like that. And you can buy it. So like even people who bought them in the fall at the fall convention could bring it back and pay $5 for the day, and then you get free refills for the whole day for $5. Well, I guess not free. $5 for refills for the day. You get a little wristband or something for that day, which I think is a great value for sure, because you can just keep using it because they keep coming back. The thing I don't like about it is that these mugs do not have a lid.
Yep.
I cannot walk around with an open soda, just like walking around in these crowded conventions where you're knocking into people all the time, and like if you can down it real fast and then go, but I am not a downer. Like I sip on my drink like all day.
I mean, you're kind of a downer.
Thank you.
Nice.
But like I don't chug my sodas, right? Like I sip on it for a while. So I'd rather get like a whatever cup with a lid and a straw. Like that's the one thing that's my only drawback why I haven't done it yet. Plus I don't think they have diet soda, and I'm just used to drinking diet soda.
They did have a diet. They had one diet root beer that they made homemade.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
I'm a Diet Coke or a Diet Dr. Pepper person, so I don't know.
Now, Dr. Pepper was a sponsor, and they did have a booth, and you and I won some free Dr. Pepper t-shirts.
Yeah, like 3 of them.
I know.
I got 2 of them. Let's remember. 2 of them I won.
The funny thing was, we went by there the first time, and they had like a little, you know, the little game where you drop in the little magnetic fishing rod and you pull up a fish, and it's like, hey, and you know, you try to do that little game and, you know, get as many fish as you can.
Got a number under it.
They were doing that with a number underneath of it, and whatever number, you got either some candy or you got a can of this new flavor of Dr. Pepper that's getting ready to release called Dr. Pepper Dark Berry.
Yes.
And they were saying that this, you know, this Salt Lake FanX was the first place it was being shown about, and Dr. Pepper is a big sponsor of Spider-Man Far From Home, and so we got to see that trailer a couple times. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I got a piece of candy. I was like, Britta, get me a t-shirt. And you literally tossed in, pulled up, and got the number that won a free t-shirt.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was like some like weird kind of t-shirt with like llamas with like sunglasses and like
dogs.
I thought it looked like llamas for some reason.
Dogs wearing sunglasses and ties.
Dogs.
They're not llamas.
Dogs, llamas.
Same thing.
Difference, yeah. But it said Dr. Pepper on it or whatever. And I went, okay, you know, whatever. So then later, we were at the convention and we met up with Jason Bolth and his daughter Becca. And I said, hey, have you gone over the Dr. Pepper thing? Because you can do the little fishing game and you can either win some candy or maybe a t-shirt. And he's like, no, let's go. And I said, oh, okay. So we walked over there. Now this had we'd done it like the day before. Mm-hmm. And we came over, and just as soon as we got there, someone pulled up a number and they got a t-shirt. And I walked up to him and I said, hey, what did that fish look like? And because they literally got it and then dropped it right back in, because I saw that the number 4 got the fish. And she said, oh, it's a green fish with a yellow stripes on it. And so then Britta tosses hers in. Well,
first it was Jason's daughter.
Oh, yeah, yes, Jason's daughter. And so she tosses it in, and she pulls up one and wins a t-shirt. And we're like, hey. And then the guy literally drops it right back in, and I could see where it went in. I was like, Britta. And I just kind of pointed, and she went in and fished. And then I went in and fished, and then Jason went in and fished.
All four of us.
So like all four of us got a t-shirt, and the guy that was there is like, yeah, once someone wins a t-shirt, we tend to go on a little bit of a string with people winning t-shirts for a little while.
Yeah. He's like, I guess I'm going to mix it up now.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, but now I know kind of what it is and where it is. Like, I didn't even have to try. Like, I just looked and like the magnet wanted to go to another one. I just kept pulling it away. I was like, nope, click. There you go.
Yep.
So anyway, a little side tangent. We got some Dr. Pepper t-shirts.
Woohoo.
So, and the one I got was like a black t-shirt, just says Dr. Pepper, and I thought it would just be kind of a cotton t-shirt, but it's actually like that sport tech, like breathable,
it's like a golf shirt.
Yeah, but in a t-shirt form. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, so a lot of different vendors. There's, you will find food typically there. It's not the best food. It's a little overpriced. It's not like airport food. Like, it's not that overpriced. But there was also a bunch of food trucks on the outside if you wanted to leave. That you could go and you could do that as well. But I'd say this time around, I actually found that there was less on the vendor floor that I wanted to see as far as like things to buy than normal. Like
I don't think we actually bought any like things. I've got some art. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but I don't think we bought any stuff this time where we usually do.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think we bought actually anything.
Yeah.
Other than, like you said, some art. Well, let's talk about the art.
Yeah.
Because that's part of the vendor floor too. So typically at one of these comic book conventions, they'll also have what they call like Artist Alley. And over there, they'll have a bunch of artists that have a bunch of their artwork on display for sale. Interesting enough that Phil Ortiz, an animator from The Simpsons, was there. And you could sit down and he would draw you and you could, get kind of, a Simpsonized version of yourself. And I was looking over there and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But, the sad thing is that I think Facebook had some sort of app that did that a long time ago. And that there's kind of some of those things online that you can kind of see. And so I didn't really want to kind of do that. But typically you and I, when we go to these, we almost always buy a couple pieces of artwork or something, or at least we have the last few years.
Yeah.
Because we like to support artists, especially like the local artists or people that are in and around the area, because we know that those spaces aren't cheap to get.
Right.
And, I always want to encourage that sort of stuff. And if we see some cool things, like I got this really cool Lord of the Rings artwork piece that I'm going to get framed that last time in the fall.
Yeah.
And we've got some other stuff. So I wanted to talk about this one artist, and I want to mention him by name because we really liked his stuff. His name is Russ Richards. Yeah. He grew up here. He went to the University of Utah, but I think now he lives up in the Seattle area. And so you can find him on Instagram, Russ Richards Art. He's also got a Facebook, a LinkedIn, and a Twitter. He's got a website, russrichardsart.com. And what was really kind of cool about Russ's stuff was that a lot of it was, I don't want to say cartoony because that's not maybe the right word, but it was stuff with like, Ewoks, and it'd be like Ewoks riding a speeder bike, but it's kind of not, I don't know, cartoony maybe, and like an animation maybe.
Yeah.
More like a cartoon animation. But the really kind of cool thing we saw that he was doing was that he was actually hand painting his art on glass, and then that glass went in a shadow box that had like a background in it. Yeah. And some really cool stuff. And so Britta got a piece that is the
Hatbox Ghost.
There you go.
From
Hatbox
Haunted
Ghost.
Mansion. So anyone who's been on the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland has seen this. He's fairly new in the last couple of years. There was rumors about him, back in the past. But anyways, it's really cool. So the background is actually the wallpaper from the Haunted Mansion. If you've seen that, it's purple. It has the black eyes in like a damask pattern. It's really cool. And then on the glass, he painted the Hatbox Ghost without his head on his shoulders, and his head is in the hat box. And he actually uses paint that glows in the dark. So when you turn off the lights, it glows. And it's so cool because it's like that 3-dimensional kind of look to it because of the background being on the back of the shadow box and the image being painted on the glass. But they're super cool. You had a lot of really cool characters. We actually kind of geeked out about the Haunted Mansion for a while because he's a big Haunted Mansion fan, and he's got some more pieces he's going to be working on, which I'm really excited about, and I may buy more of them. Mm-hmm. But that was one I got really excited about. But he had a whole bunch of really cool superheroes, had Disney characters, a lot of Ewok stuff because he has a little book called The Secret Life of Ewoks, which we looked at, which was really cute and quite funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually ordered a piece of Thanos doing the snap, wearing the Infinity Gauntlet that he's going to mail to me because they'd run out of them. But the crystals, the gems in the Infinity Gauntlet all glow in the dark, and so I'm really looking forward to that as well. Super Friends, go check his stuff out. Just if you just want to kind of see his stuff, go to his Instagram, subscribe, follow him, do all that. Russ Richards Art on Instagram. It's really cool stuff. Yeah. And definitely someone that's worth supporting. So I wanted to talk about him because that's really kind of cool. We also ran across a company called Change for Love, and this was interesting. It was a nonprofit, and basically what they do is they take donations, and you can donate any amount of money. It doesn't matter. It could be $1, it could be $100. It didn't matter. But you donate money, and you could win, or you'd not win, but you'd get a print of something. And what's interesting about these prints, these pieces of art, is that they're drawn by people who have handicaps. So someone may have like Down syndrome or have lost an arm and is only using one arm or something. And these people that they do these art pieces, they actually do these art pieces to go into like the hospital rooms of other people that are having, handicaps or disabilities or whatever, to try to kind of help brighten up their room, try to help, bring a smile to someone's face when they're facing really tough circumstances.
Yeah. And
so what they do is all the money that gets raised goes towards making these prints, buying materials and stuff for these artists so they can make the originals that'll go to the other people that need it. Anyway, it's really, really kind of cool thing. If you're interested, on Twitter, they're at Change. I think it's at Change for Love, or you can go to their website at changeforlove.org.
It's the number 4, I believe, right?
Yeah, it's the number 4. Change the numeral 4 love.org. Yeah. And so something we're going to do at the end of this podcast is if you answer our question of the week, we actually got a print that I'll put a picture up this week on social media. You can see it's a picture of Groot riding Rocket, firing. Looks like it's from Guardians of the Galaxy 2. And we're going to give that away. If you answer the question of the week, you're going to be put in a random drawing, and someone's going to win that piece of art. We picked it up solely so that we could give it away. Yeah. I've also got some stickers from Russ Richards Art that I'm going to be giving away, and then I also have a piece that is word art where there's a really cool image, but it's a whole bunch of words from like the movie or the TV show.
Yeah, like dialogue,
that they use, and the way they use it, they make something up. I've got one of those too. I can't remember the artist's name right now. It's like in the back.
We'll post it when we look it up.
Yeah, it's in the back of my head, but I'm going to be giving that away too. I mean, I always want to try to go and get a few things, support a local artist, and then give that away on the podcast. And so we're going to do that this week. So I will look for that on the social medias, and we will do that. So. And
we might be giving away a FanX t-shirt as well.
There is that possibility as well.
Yes.
That may be a bonus though. So you'll have to see. Yeah. So be looking for that on the socials coming up. So Britta, let's talk about some of the panels, because this seems to be kind of a big thing. So we went to a number of panels in the Grand Ballroom. typically, if you go to a comic convention, they have like a big grand ballroom. If you're in San Diego, it's, usually Hall H. Mm-hmm. The big room where they have the big stars come in and they do a panel, question and answers. The fans get a chance to ask questions. And we went to a number of these. And so let's kind of talk about the ones we went to, maybe hit a couple of the highlights. Mm-hmm. The first one we saw was Billie Piper, who played the companion Tyler. Rose Tyler for Doctor Who. Mm-hmm. What did you think of her panel? What did you think of her? I mean, obviously she got to get up there and talk and answer a bunch of questions.
Well, this was one of the ones I was most excited about. Like, this was why I wanted to go to this con, was for Billie Piper, because, as you guys know, I'm a huge Doctor Who fan. I'm the one who got Spence watching the show. Rose has always been one of my favorite characters. I loved her seasons. So I was really excited about it. And unfortunately, I was a little disappointed with Billie Piper's panel. Like, I think she did a good job, but I think it's just not her strong suit, like answering fan questions and being in front of a live audience like that. Like, I know she does theater and things like that, but it's just a little lackluster, or maybe a little awkward at times. I feel like, there's always those people that come up and ask the really awkward questions, and she kind of answered it awkwardly, whereas some other people handle it really well and turn it into like a really good positive whatever thing. And she was good. She told some good stories, had some interesting things, but it's really not the most memorable of the panels I think that we went to. It
also was 10 a.m.
It's true.
It was the first panel. Something I did think about though is that, and you could really see for some actors and actresses that we saw, I think you're right. Like, they know how to answer some of these things. And if they don't have a direct answer, that they can kind of deflect it to something kind of adjacent, and then they can tell a funny story. Which is entertaining, because this is really what that sort of thing is. It's supposed to be entertainment, right?
Yeah.
But like, people would get up and ask questions like, when you were Rose, what was your favorite scene to film? And I get that. Like, you want to know, like, your people, that's a natural thing. Like, hey, what was your favorite part of, filming this thing? But the problem is that, like, when you're talking like this was 10 years ago, mm-hmm. and she did it for 3 years, day in and day out for 3 years, like, it maybe gets a little hard to pick out one thing from another.
Yeah.
And I felt like we heard that question, or a variation of that question, like 6 times during her panel.
Right.
And so if you're going to go to a con, think of something unique, maybe a little deeper dive, something that's going to get the person talking a bit. I mean...
Yeah, like, I did like how, someone did ask her, like, if you couldn't have been an actress, what other job, like, would you do? And it took her a minute, but finally she was just like, she just started laughing. She's like, I'd probably be an upholsterer. And she just started laughing, but she geeks out about fabric, and she loves these old vintage fabrics, and she loves, like, getting, like, furniture and stuff redone and doing all this stuff. So she kind of geeked out about that for a minute, which was really fun to see. So I thought that was a good question, because then you kind of get a little bit more insight into the person that she actually is and stuff. And, so that was interesting.
Yeah. So we went from there, and then the next panel we saw was John Cleese. And yes. I got to say that John Cleese is a comedian. I mean, he's an actor, and, mm-hmm. He's been in movies and stuff, but he's a comedian. And what's great about comedians is they, especially guys like him, they know what's going to play well. They mm-hmm. know how to play to the crowd. They know how to, hit those marks and really get big laughs. And he did that nonstop his entire panel. Yes. I mean, he used his panel as an opportunity to make everyone laugh. He took pot shots at all the other Monty Python guys, which I'm sure they all do to each other.
Yes.
And the funny thing is that he was really, really funny. It was just like everything he had a line for, and people would ask him questions, and he'd crack off these one-liners or, these really funny stories. But what's interesting to me, though, right now in our culture is that there is a tendency for people to really kind of, how to put this politely, kind of just like find reasons to be outraged or be upset at all sorts of little things. And like, he was taking pot shots at the current U.S. president, but he was doing it as a comedian does it. He's trying to make a joke. He's trying to be funny, and legitimately he was, whether or not your political affiliation or whatever. But we had some people that were sitting behind us that as soon as he'd start bringing up some of this stuff and making jokes, they're like, you shouldn't say that about those people, or that's not true. It's like,
yeah,
he's telling a joke. The premise of a joke is almost universally, I'm going to tell you something that's going to sound true, but then I'm going to twist it at the end, and that's the punchline, and it's going to make you laugh. It's not true. The whole setup's been a lie, so I could get you to laugh. Like, that is the premise you have to understand with comedians and jokes. And it's like the people behind us just didn't get that. I was like,
yeah, it's like they were expecting...
You can't take it at face value.
Yeah, it's like they were expecting him to be like, oh, let me get real with you people and talk about all this serious stuff and da-da. He's not the kind of guy that's going to do that. Like, literally, he came out and said, oh, I've never played to a crowd this big before. So he's obviously in performance mode. Like, he is performing for us. He's talking about that. He's not, like, trying to be real and have a, genuine conversation, but he really did, like, listen to people's questions and stuff like that. But he was just very amusing. He was so funny. Like, someone asked him if he remembered his silly walk and when the last time was that he did it. And he was just like, making fun of them for asking him, like, yes, I'm so old that I cannot even remember, like, one of the things I'm most well known for.
Right.
Kind of a thing, So you just have to, like, know that going into some of these, by the way they're talking, what they're doing. Like, a lot of these people are just kind of more performing. Some people will get really real with you and be serious and talk about certain things, like Manu Bennett that we saw last year. Like, he was awesome, but he was, like, very real and telling, like,
very personal stories.
Very personal stories about his life. Yeah. John Cleese, you're not going to get that. You're never going to get that.
Yeah. Manu Bennett talks about, like, the real effects of bullying in his life and how it got him to where he is. John Cleese is basically, like, bullying his Python stars from afar and just laughing maniacally about it. And everyone's laughing along with him because that he's not being serious. None of it. It's all a big joke. Yeah. The one thing I did think, though, during that whole thing was, the problem was that the person that was trying to kind of moderate the panel was trying to be funny too, and was trying to, like, get in some, like, good one-liners. I was like, shut up and get out of the way.
Like, he's a professional.
Yeah, this is John Cleese. Trust me, he does not need you there. He's got this fine. Just, get out of his way. Tee him up occasionally. Let him hit it out of the park. Just get out of the way.
Yeah, there was a few moderators that I was less than impressed with that I think were a little awkward, but
So the next one we saw was Warwick Davis.
Yes.
And I gotta say, I really enjoyed Warwick Davis's panel.
He was probably one of my absolute favorite ones. One of my top two. Yeah.
Warwick Davis, obviously, from Willow. He was Wicket in Return of the Jedi, and then he's been, in a bunch of other stuff in Star Wars. Professor Flitwick and Griphook from Harry Potter. What really struck me is he was one of those people that you can tell he's a fan of what he does. He's a fan of Star Wars. And so for him, I get the impression that, granted, he's an actor, but, like, he strikes me as someone who's just really down to earth. Was super willing to answer people's questions. Some of them were personal questions. He related some funny stories about, wearing Wicket's suit and, like, going to George Lucas's daughter's, like, 4th birthday or 6th birthday or something like that, and, like, having to eat cake and them shoving cake into the mask, and, he couldn't see, and, all this other stuff, and really, really a lot of fun. I really wasn't anticipating that, but, like, he was telling great Val Kilmer stories, and I kind of came away from that going, man, he just seems like a really cool, down-to-earth kind of guy.
Yeah, it made me want to go meet him afterwards. I was like, he is so cool. And, like, the way he talked about everything, and, he cracked some jokes at his expense and stuff like that. But, I really enjoyed his panel. He talked about a few serious things. He talked about some funny things from his childhood, and, like, you can just tell, like you said, like, he's a huge fan of, like, Star Wars and the things he does, and man, does he want to make a Willow sequel.
Oh yes. He says he is on board for that.
Yep.
So you heard it here, Super Friends. A Willow sequel, Warwick Davis is on board with.
Yep.
Let's see, who else did we see? Oh, we went to the panel for the accountants from The Office. So that was Angela Kinsey, Oscar Nunez, and Brian Baumgartner. And I really, really enjoyed that panel. It was just fun kind of seeing the three of them play off each other. One of the questions, obviously, that was brought up was, this talk of a reboot of The Office. Would they be, on board? And they all said that they totally would, be on board, and that they're, it looks like that thing may be moving towards that. They did tell some stories relating some, funny things. I gotta say, I really enjoyed that panel, but that was, once again, not a panel that people are going to get super serious about.
Yeah.
They did a little bit where they did talk about how, at the beginning of that show, they thought they were going to get canceled, and they were all really tight. They used to get together on Thursday nights and all kind of watch it together. I mean, everyone, including Steve Carell and,
the whole gang.
John Krasinski, everyone. But that was a lot of fun. I mean, that was what you expected it was going to be. They were just, just a good group of people, and
just ribbing on each other and teasing each other and just having fun being together like that.
Yeah.
And it sounds like they're all really good friends and kind of hang out all the time anyway. And it was really funny because Angela Kinsey, she was wearing a t-shirt that said "Save Bandit," throwing the cat. If you remember that scene where she throws the cat into the ceiling, and they had a whole thing where they talked about that, and it was so funny. It was really entertaining.
So we also got to go see Zachary Levi's panel, Shazam. I gotta say, Britta, that was my absolute favorite panel.
Oh, me too. I'm so glad I got to see him, because I don't know if you remember a couple cons ago, we were in line to have our get the thing signed with Will Wheaton.
Yeah.
And I think that's when the Zachary Levi panel was. I'm pretty sure that's the one that I wanted to go to. And we had to wait forever because Will Wheaton wasn't there yet. And I was debating, and I didn't go to the Zachary Levi panel. And I'm actually really bummed that I didn't go, because after seeing this panel, I was like, man, I definitely missed out.
Okay. So
he's phenomenal.
I will say, though, it was a phenomenal panel, but we missed out on it. But we did get to talk to Will Wheaton for
it's true.
For 6 or 7 minutes, and he talked with us, he answered questions, he was asking us questions, he genuinely was engaging with us.
Yes.
And so that is something I could say, hey, I've sat down and had a conversation with Will Wheaton, not just a quick little meet and greet, walk in, snap a photo, and walk out.
Sure.
We were standing in line, and he came in and sat down, and he was wearing the same t-shirt I was wearing. We were both wearing Cobra Kai t-shirts, and this is, prior to the Cobra Kai series being, remade on YouTube.
Yeah.
And all that. This was, a year before that even. And he's just points at me, he's like, hey, and he's like, that's awesome, man. He's like, you're a big Karate Kid fan. I'm 6 people back. He just gets there, and he's talking over 5 other people in line to me.
He sees you.
Because he sees me, and so we're just kind of chatting for a minute or two, and then eventually we get up, up to the front of the line to get something signed, and then he talked to us for another 6 or 7 minutes.
Yeah.
So for me, yes, we did miss Zachary Levi last time, but we did have a great interaction with Will Wheaton that time. So
yeah. No,
but
true. So back to the panel.
Yeah, what I loved about Zachary Levi panel was that he was upbeat. He had a lot of energy. You can tell he's a lot like me in the sense that I just say that I'm just a massive, man child. And that's how Zachary Levi is as well. And that really comes across, and what he talks about and how excited he is to, to be a superhero. And then, Chuck Bartowski on the TV show and to have been in MCU movies. But then someone got up there and they started talking about their struggle with ADD. And kind of where they're at and anxiety, and the person was really, really, really struggling. And it's actually something that Zachary Levi has dealt with in his life, and it has. And he went from being super upbeat to he laser focused in with this person, and he starts talking to this person, and it was just do you feel this way? Do you feel this way? Blah blah blah. And then he says before we do this, he's raise your hands if you felt anxiety. Raise your hands if you felt, feelings of overwhelming, and all these hands go up all over the place. And then he says to the person, he's turn around and look at all these other people that feel just like you. You are not alone. And the person like turns around and is just crying and he's just like, he's like, this is what I did. I went and, got help and I did this and and I had to realize, that I needed to love myself. And like, he like got super real in that moment.
And very personal.
And very, very personal to his life, but also like very personal. Like I want, if I can do something right now to reach out and like help you, even if it's just to kind of give you a nudge in the right direction so that you can keep going today, that's what he was, that's what he was trying to do. Yeah. And what I loved about that moment, Britta, was that it was a real moment. You could tell that it's not like, hey, I'm that guy and I'm trying to put on a show and I'm trying to make this entertaining. But it was just like, no, I'm just a guy. And I know what you're going through, and I've been there before, and I think I can help you out, and I'm going to do that. I love that. I love seeing real human interaction like that, just in general in life, but to see that at that moment when it, when he could have been like, hey, I'm sorry for you, move on, that sort of thing. That was great. And then, shortly after that, it was back to, the just kind of the jovialness, silly questions being asked and, whatnot. Yeah. But man, like that was my favorite panel. Like it had laughs. It had, moments of realness. It just, Zachary Levi's like, he's one of those guys that like, if you get an opportunity to meet him or meet him at a panel, go to a panel of his, get a photo with him, like take that opportunity. Like way cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that a lot. His panel was definitely my favorite one, I think, that we went to. And, someone asked him, like, how do you stay so positive and everything? He's like, well, some of that's personality. Some of that is you have to work at it. And, how he had gone through these, mental health issues. And he's just like, it's so important to take care of yourself. And like he was saying, like, to everyone, like, it's so important to just, like, love yourself. Like, eat good things, take care of yourself, like mentally and emotionally and like all these things. And, don't stress about that stuff. But then he just like, he genuinely loves and cares about his fans. And you can see that. And I love it because he was one of the few celebrities who came out and didn't have a moderator with him.
Yeah, he went straight to Q&A.
Yeah, and granted, he's been a moderator before, the whole Nerd HQ and all that stuff that he does. So he's very familiar with comic conventions and panels and things like this, but he just wants to interact with those fans. And he was like, just right away, all right, just let's start going through questions. And he had like great answers. Like he took time to actually answer every question that people put in front of him. Whereas some people would just kind of like, kind of gloss over it, not really answer a question or whatever. But like when people asked him, like, which of your characters, Chuck or Shazam or, someone else, I can't remember. Oh yeah, Flynn Rider from Tangled. It's like, which of them, would do best in a zombie apocalypse, or which of them would, win in a fight of this or whatever. Like he literally like went through and was like, well, this person would do this, and this person would do this, and this would do this, and he would actually answer it. Whereas most of the people are like, oh, I just love all my characters so much, I couldn't pick one.
Right.
Like he answered it, which was awesome. Like he just genuinely like wants to like have these conversations with these people, and it was just fantastic. I'd go to that 10 times over one day. It
was really, really good. We also saw Tom Felton, Draco Malfoy from the Harry Potter series. And what was really cool about his panel is at the end, he played some like own compositions on the guitar for the crowd. And I don't think he's really done that in public much. And they were decent songs. Like they were entertaining. They were pretty good. My only complaint though, not about the music. It wasn't about the music, but it was him. And I'm going to try to be nice. I'm sorry, Tom. I'm really sorry. But when he came in, like his shirt was torn and it looked dirty. His pants were torn. And I'm not saying like, he kind of had like the rock star kind of grubby look. Like he had the homeless look about him. He probably hadn't shaved in like 2 or 3 weeks. And so like he was scratching his beard because I could tell like it was itching him. And I know what it's like when you get to like kind of that itchy stage in a beard. But because he had like rips and tears in his clothes, like not like, not the chic way that's like popular for like rips and tears in your clothes, like the homeless way. And then with the scratching and stuff, he looked like he was on meth. That's the kindest way I can put it. And I just kind of felt bad. I was like, yeah, like he was way cool. He answered a lot of the questions, was really nice. But man, presentation wise wasn't the best. Unfortunately.
Yeah, it was a little weird, and he was kind of hyper and stuff. And maybe that's his personality. I really haven't seen many interviews and things with him, so I don't know. It was a little strange at times, but for the most part, like he actually really like thought about people's questions and answered them, and he seemed to genuinely have a good time.
Yeah.
I thought his moderator was a little, I don't know if she was just really nervous or what. She was a little awkward, but yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah. We did see Clark Gregg, who plays Agent Phil Coulson. The interesting thing about his was like, I thought his panel was really good. Yeah. He was very relatable. He kind of talked about how the fact, he kind of gets typecast in like these agent FBI G-man type roles a lot. A lot of people were asking questions that he could not answer because Avengers Endgame comes out next week.
Contractually, yes.
Contractually. And like, you could tell like there was times where people are asking questions and he's like, and he's trying to find a way to like not completely dodge the question. But he's like, you could just see that he was jumping through mental hoops to try to figure out how can I answer this question and also not get fined millions of dollars by Marvel and by Disney. But he did tell some funny stories, and he's a very relatable guy. A lot of fun.
Yeah. He talked a lot about how he has to keep secrets. Yeah. Because he's in Marvel. And like one of the people asked, like how long did you know that as Agent Coulson, like you were going to die, but then you were going to also come back? And he was like, that was the worst secret. He's like, because I knew that for a long time, like years he knew it and he couldn't talk about it. So he talked a lot about that kind of stuff, which was pretty funny.
Yeah. And then the last panel that we really kind of went to of like the big stuff was we went and saw Jess Harnell, and he's a voice actor. He's done voices for the Animaniacs, just a bunch of other things. And then he also, Doc McStuffins. He's also got a band, Rock Sugar. Sorry. Yeah. Pop Sugar is, I think, a video thing I see pop up on Facebook or something. Anyway, Rock Sugar. Yeah. But they did this thing called Twisted Tunes where they actually brought in like people local. They had a competition that people who could do like, voices. So like the voice of like Roger Rabbit or Pinky or one of the Powerpuff Girls or a Joker voice. Someone did the Mad Hatter. And basically they had, a professional voice actor, Jess Harnell, and then a bunch of these like, undiscovered talent, we'll call them, from locally here in Salt Lake, come up and do scenes for movies. So they were doing scenes from like Back to the Future. They were doing scenes from Forrest Gump, but with different voices. Winnie the Pooh. Like Winnie the Pooh was one of the voices in one of them, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was Lorraine in Back to the Future, and Elma was the voice of Marty. And so like really kind of
real random stuff.
Really random, kind of twisted, but very, very funny stuff. That panel actually was a lot of fun. Yeah. And it was one of those ones where I know that next time they come around, I'm going to go to that panel and make sure I don't miss that, because it just was a lot of fun.
Yeah, they do that like every year, but we've just never gone.
Right. So panels are a big thing. What I like about the most about panels is if you got a really good panel with either a good moderator or the celebrity guest is like really good in interacting, like you can get answers to some real questions. I actually had a chance to get up during the Mike Coulter panel, Mike Coulter, aka Luke Cage. And I was like third one up to go ask a question in his panel. And my question was going to be, if Disney Plus decides to pick up Luke Cage, would you be available? Would you want to reprise that role? Because we know there's kind of a 2-year waiting period from when it leaves Netflix. But during the normal course of the interview, Mike Coulter said, he's like, hey man, it's like, if Disney Plus ends up picking this up, it's like, you got my number, you give me a call. And I was like, okay, well, I can't ask that question. So I either need to come up with another question or I just need to go sit down. And then I was like, well, okay, well, I'm going to ask this other question. And then he answered that question. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll ask him this. And then he answered that, and I was like, dude, man, I'm just thinking too generic. So by the time I got up there, I got up and I asked Mike Coulter, I said, you've worked in the business, I wanted to ask him something that wasn't just like, who would win in a fight? But I said, is there any, do you have like a dream list of actors or actresses or directors that you want to work with? And he says, well, that's really tough for me because my first job, I got to work with Clint Eastwood. He's like, how do you top Clint Eastwood?
Right.
This huge actor, director. He's like, everything else is, second tier after you've done that. But he did talk about the fact that he likes working with people that like to work, that they want to be there and they want to be positive and, come together to create something that people are going to enjoy and whatnot. And he says, like, if people don't want to be there and they don't want to get out of their trailer and they don't want to work, he's like, I don't want to work. He's like, I don't want to deal with people that are super negative and divas and whatnot. And it was a really good kind of real answer.
Yeah.
To kind of, see like them, kind of what goes on, in actors' minds and, the process of what they do, because they're real people. Their job is to portray other people. And sometimes they get to do some pretty fantastical things. And sometimes they're gritty and real and raw. So anyway, that was a lot of fun. We did get to go do some photo ops, Britta.
Yep.
We did 2 this time around. We paid for 2 photo ops. One was with Billy Piper.
Yep.
How did you think that went? Like, what was your experience with that?
I mean, it was pretty typical, waiting in the line and walk in, take your picture, walk out. But she did seem to kind of take her time and try to interact a little bit with everyone that came in. There was like a set of little girls that were dressed up, a couple people ahead of us, and she was just like looking at all their little costumes and things. So they all brought a whole bunch of sonic screwdrivers and gave one to her. And so they all posed with the sonic screwdriver. So she took time to like pose with them. And then there was some guys before that brought just like a white piece of like styrofoam board to be like the wall between the dimensions from the show. She was like, oh, this is awesome. Let's do this. And she knew exactly what it was and like posed with them. So, I think it was pretty good. You only get seconds in those things. So, you don't really, it's not a meet and greet. It's not an interaction really. It's just a quick picture and out, but she seemed to kind of try and take a little bit of time with the people that were there as much as she could.
Yeah. So that was good. I mean, I thought that was, a lot of fun, but then we also got to get a picture with Zachary Levi. Yeah. And
Shazam.
Zachary Levi was like super friendly. And as we came in, he's like, hey guys, how's it going? And I was wearing an Office t-shirt and he's like, oh, did you guys see the Office people? I'm like, yeah, we did. I'm like, we really came to see you. He gets a big smile. He's like, oh, thanks. And like, he actually took probably like a good 25, 30 seconds kind of talking with us as we were taking the photo. And you could see like, I get how the people that probably have to work with some of these celebrities could probably get frustrated because it would be really easy for the lines to back up, because I know some of these celebrities like Michael Rooker that was there in the fall, like Michael Rooker was taking like minutes with everyone. Each person that came in for a photo. Yeah. And like he wanted to do that. And some of these celebrities do that. I mean, when I met like we said, when we met Will Wheaton, like total time, we probably talked to Will for close to like 10 minutes. I met Brent Spiner, who played Lieutenant Commander Data on The Next Generation, and he spent like 15 minutes just kind of talking to me.
Telling his stories about his uncle and stuff.
Going, which was great. Like, and you could see that Angela Kinsey, who played Angela on The Office, like, she's just a chatterbox. Like, she just loves talking to people, and she was just like, people would come up to like get an autograph from her, and she'd just sit there and talk with them for like long stretches of time. And then there's other times that, people just kind of, in, out, do the thing and, let's move on. Yeah. But you could tell like Zachary Levi wanted to spend a lot of time talking to people, but they were kind of like, hey, come on. We got a big line. We got to get through this. You're one of the big stars. You got a big, massive blockbuster movie out right now. We got to turn through these people. There's lots of people waiting.
Yeah.
But you could tell, though, that he was trying to fight that because he was spending time. And, like, we were watching people before us, and he was talking to people and, asking questions and this and that. And, yeah, man, like, if you can become best friends with Zachary Levi, I'd highly recommend it.
Right.
I think he's probably a great person to have as a best friend.
If they ever offered some sort of, like, actual experience to like go and hang out with him. Like most of the time I'm like, I don't really want to hang out with a celebrity. Like I don't know what I talk about. Like I feel super awkward. But if it's him, totally. I would totally go spend a day with Zachary Levi. That'd be super fun.
Yeah. Totally a cool guy. The last thing, Britta, I wanted to ask you about is some cosplay. So that's always a big thing at these conventions, right? People dress up like their favorite characters from cartoons, TV, movies, video games, anime.
Yeah. Was
there any like big trends that you saw this year? Because I noticed one that I'll bring up, but
I feel like I saw, and maybe it's because I was looking for it because we're playing the game right now, but some Kingdom Hearts. We talked with a little group that were dressed up like
Riku and Axel.
Yeah, they had a couple other people with them too. I feel like I saw a few of those. Saw a little bit of Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Not as much Game of Thrones as I would have expected with the show being in its last season.
Right. I mean, there just weren't as many costumes in general.
I saw a lot of Spider-Man, specifically
Spider-Verse.
into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of Miles Morales costumes. I saw a lot of the Spider-Man in the sweatpants.
Yeah, and the jacket.
The version of Peter Parker in the sweatpants where he's, kind of let himself go a little bit. I saw
depressed Spider-Man.
I saw a lot of that. I did see the noir Spider-Man.
Yeah.
The one Nick Cage voices. We saw kind of the, all the kind of normal stuff you're going to see.
A number of Spider-Gwens, too.
Yeah, a number of Spider-Gwens, too. But we saw some Sailor Moons. We saw some stuff from, some Final Fantasy. We saw, we saw, Men in Black. Just a lot of things. But
a lot of Doctor Who stuff.
A lot of Doctor Who stuff, obviously.
And there's also a ton of anime that I just don't know. And I don't know if it's video game anime or, like, cartoon anime. I don't know most of that stuff, but it looks super cool.
I saw a little bit of Star Trek. I didn't see a lot of Star Wars, as far as like just normal people kind of walking around.
Just a couple.
But like one or two Deadpools. Anyway, it was kind of a cool thing. Definitely, I know in the fall when the convention's a little bit bigger, that one tends to bring in a lot more cosplay.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's kind of a recap of kind of what the weekend we had at FanX here in Salt Lake City. The company that does that, Brian Brandenburg and Dan Farr Productions and all those guys, like they really do put on a very quality convention. It's really well done. It's really well organized. There's lots of volunteers. It's continued to get better and better and better and better and better. And if you're ever in the area around one of those times, I highly recommend it. Take the opportunity to, walk the vendor floor and see artists and, sellers and authors and, all sorts of things. Go get a photo op with a celebrity, go to the panels. Like that's really a lot of fun. And there's always smaller panels too, where people will be talking about like Dungeons and Dragons and like how to be a game master or like, how to do a podcast or,
how to write your own novel.
Right. Like all sorts of little things are like, hey, let's do a retrospective of this fandom or this character or whatever. Like there's a lot of little smaller things other than just the big celebrities and the,
some real fun ones
in the big areas. And there's tons of cosplay. Like there's areas a lot of times just kind of sit down and like drink or eat and like watch people walk around. And then there's always photo opportunities. They have things like, a TARDIS box or, statues and things you can go pose with, the DeLorean, whatever, and go get photos. So I highly recommend doing something like that. Find something locally to you, spend the money, go really nerd out, fly that nerd flag, and enjoy yourself. Because, that's what life is about, right? Is enjoying the things you love. Or at least one of the things life's about.
Yeah.
So, Britta, let's ask the question of the week. This question of the week, if you answer it, you will be in the random drawing for some artwork that we did pick up at FanX. The question of the week is, if you could go to a comic convention and you can meet any celebrity, who would it be and why? So, Britta, my question to you, barring the people we've met in the past or at this last one, what celebrity would you like to meet that you have yet to meet?
That's a really good question, and I knew you were going to ask this question, and I still didn't think about it.
Would you like me to go first?
Yeah, you go. Okay. You go. I'm going to think about it.
So this easy for me, Mark Hamill. I want to meet Mark Hamill. Second, actually, probably that would be William Shatner. But Mark Hamill, number one. I want to meet Luke Skywalker. I want to meet the voice of the Joker. Like, I follow him on Twitter and Instagram, and like, he just genuinely puts out really clever stuff, really funny stuff. I've seen him do panels, like watch on YouTube and stuff, and seen him do a bunch of interviews. I think spending a little bit of time with him and getting to meet him would be a massive, massive highlight for me. That would be someone that I definitely would want to. Just right after that would be William Shatner. Okay. I mean, he's Captain Kirk, and you know that the guy's got lots and lots and lots of stories to tell, and he likes to talk and tell those stories, and so that would just be a fun, entertaining time. Anyway,
yeah.
Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill's the guy.
Okay. So I think if I can meet anyone, because I've already met David Tennant, which is like top of my list, would have to be probably Matt Smith and Karen Gillan.
Oh, that's a good combo right there.
Yeah, and obviously I could meet either of them separately, but together would be the best, because I've seen them do interviews and panels and stuff together, and they're just so much fun, and they were, did all their stuff for such a long time. I would love to meet the two of them together. And then next after that, if I had a second pick, and I don't know if he ever does conventions or anything, would be Steve Carell.
Oh,
He'd
yeah.
be so fun to meet. Don't you think he'd just be fun to meet?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right, well, that's a good answer. I like that, Britta. All right, super friends. So that's the question of the week. If you could go to any comic convention, you could meet any celebrity, who would it be and why? Get those answers in, and you'll be in the drawing for some sweet art that'll support some local artists and some stuff that we picked up, and maybe even a FanX T-shirt that we'll give away. And you can get to us at all the normal places. Our email is fortofnerd@gmail.com. We're on Facebook, which is facebook.com/fortofnerd. Twitter @FortofNerd. You can even call in with a voicemail, 801-477-7687. And you can also respond on Instagram, FortofNerd, over on Instagram. And anyway, that's what we're doing for this next week. Next week, Britta, you're actually going to be coming back to the Fortress of Nerditude.
Yeah, 2 weeks in a row, guys.
As well as Patrick Novosel is going to be joining us.
Nice.
Because we're going to do our movie club, and we are going to be talking Avengers Endgame.
So be prepared, watch it, guys, because I don't know if I'll be able to talk about it without spoilers, let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way we're not going to be able to talk spoilers.
Just
and
watch it.
We'll do the first part of the show normal, then we will highly say it's going to be spoilers from here on out.
Yes.
And we will also put that on all the social medias just to warn everyone, because
it's your fault.
Thanos demands our silence, but I mean, past a certain point, you've been warned. So Anyway, that'll be next week. Something to look forward to. Anyway, Britta, thank you for joining me once again here, and look forward to next week. Seeing you again.
Yeah. Wait to see all the Super Friends again, or at least hear me and talk to them. Yeah, words.
You English very well.
Thank you.
Well, from all of us here at the Fortress of Nerditude to all of you out there, wherever you may be, may the Force be with you. Always.